I straightened my dress for what felt like the 100th time in front of the mirror. A few short years ago, I was a terrified, broken woman. But the reflection staring back at me now, she was different, confident, steady. Or at least trying to be. From downstairs, I could hear Max's voice. "Leah, we're going to be late," he called, his tone impatient, but familiar. I took a deep breath and called back. "Just a minute, my love. Tonight was important." We hadn't had dinner with his mother since we got married, and I knew this wasn't going to be just a casual meal. Marianne and I had met only once, at the wedding, and her stare back then felt like an autopsy, dissecting me in silence. When I finally made my way down the stairs, Max's face lit up. "Leah," he murmured, pulling me into a kiss. "You look stunning." I let myself fall into the warmth of his arms, that rare moment where I felt truly safe. Before Max, love had been a stranger. "Thank you," I whispered. "I just hope your mom feels the same." He chuckled. "She's not a concern. Once she gets to know you, she'll love you." If only he had known how wrong he was. The drive to Marianne's Victorian mansion was quiet, but my nerves screamed inside me. Perfectly trimmed hedges lined the property. A shining silver Mercedes sat proudly in the driveway. Wealth clung to the place like ivy. "All set?" Max asked. Squeezing my hand, I forced a smile. "Ready as I'll ever be." Marianne answered the door herself, pearls around her neck. Not a single strand of hair out of place. The pearls probably cost more than our car. "My lovely Maxwell," she cooed, kissing both of his cheeks. Then her eyes turned to me. The warmth faded. "Leah," she said. "How? Nice to see you again." I kept my voice steady. "Thank you for having us." Marianne. Inside. The house was lavish. Dark wood floors, heavy drapes, portraits of stern ancestors staring down at us from gilded frames. "Dinner is nearly ready," she announced as she guided us into the sitting room. "Maxwell, why don't you pour us a glass of wine?" He nodded and moved toward the bar cart. Then she turned to me. "So, Leah," she began, her tone sugar-sweet, her eyes anything but. "Tell me about your parents. What does your father do?" I barely swallowed. "He works in construction. My mother teaches high school English." Her lips thinned. "How quaint," she said. "And you?" "What do you do?" "I'm a social worker," I replied. "I help families in crisis." She laughed, a brittle sound. "Well, someone has to, I suppose." Max returned with the wine, oblivious to the tension. "What are we talking about?" he asked cheerfully. "Oh," Marianne said, waving a hand. "Just learning more about Leah's background. Did you know her father's in construction?" I saw the flicker in Max's eyes, the discomfort, but he pushed it down. "My wife's family is wonderful." "Mom," he said softly. Marianne hummed. "Perhaps I'll warm to them in time," she said. "Shall we eat?" Dinner was a minefield. She asked polite questions with jagged edges, where I grew up, how many partners I'd had, my future plans, all with a tone that suggested judgment was already passed. I tried to stay polite, I really did. But then she asked it, "When will we get some grandchildren?" She set down her fork with an audible click. I almost choked on my wine. "I'm sorry," I said. "My darling children," she repeated, gesturing toward both of us. "I assumed you'd already be trying. Maxwell isn't getting any younger. After all," Max rubbed the back of his neck, "we've only been married a few months." "Mom, let's not rush it." Marianne frowned. "Nonsense. The Caldwell name must continue." She turned to me. "I'm sure you want children, Leah." I felt all eyes turn on me. The room felt smaller. "I do," I said carefully. "But not this second." Marianne's smile grew tight. "You're not getting any younger either, dear. Women's fertility doesn't last forever." "Mother," Max said firmly. But it was already too late. I stood up. My chair scraped the floor behind me. "I need a moment," I said. Without waiting, I walked to the bathroom and locked the door. I splashed cold water on my face, staring at my reflection. Was this the life I signed up for? Max had always seemed different from the others. Gentle, supportive, but his mother's contempt had me questioning everything. Then came a knock. Leah Max's voice was soft. "Are you okay?" I breathed deeply. No, I wasn't. Not even close. In the days after that dinner, everything shifted. Max and I stopped making eye contact. Our conversations became shorter, tense. Whenever I tried to bring up what had happened, Max changed the subject or left the room. Then, on a Sunday afternoon, it came to a head. I was folding laundry when I heard Max's phone buzz on the nightstand. I didn't mean to look. But the message preview glowed on the screen. "Do you still need to talk to Leah about starting a family? Time's running out." From Mother. I froze. "Max," I called. My voice was sharper than I intended. He stepped into the doorway. "What's this?" I asked, holding up the phone. His face went pale. He walked over and read the message silently. "I can explain," he said. "Please do," I replied, because from where I'm standing, it looks like you and your mother are having private conversations about my body and my choices. He rubbed the back of his neck, his nervous habit. "She's just worried." Worried, I laughed bitterly. "Max, this is beyond worried. This is controlling, obsessive. She means well." He muttered. "Does she?" I snapped. "Do you honestly think forcing me to have a child I'm not ready for will bring anyone happiness?" He looked up, his face hardening. "When will you be ready?" "Leah, we're not getting any younger." I blinked. The words felt like a slap. "Of course I want a family," I said quietly. "But on our terms." "Not hers." Max shook his head. "She's not involved in this." "Then why is she texting you about it?" I pointed at the phone. "Why are you sharing our private life with her? She's family." "No," I said firmly. "She's your mother. She's not part of this marriage." He stared at me, jaw tight. The silence between us stretched like a canyon. "Finally," Max muttered. "Maybe my mother is right. Maybe I made a mistake." The floor dropped out from under me. What does that mean?" "It means," he said slowly, "maybe I shouldn't have married someone so different." My hands trembled. My vision blurred. "Leave," I whispered. He didn't move. "Get out," I screamed. I grabbed the nearest object, a framed photo of our wedding day, and threw it. It shattered against the wall. Max ducked, then nodded stiffly. "I'll stay at Mom's tonight. We can talk tomorrow." He left. The door slammed behind him, and I sank to the floor, surrounded by shards of glass, wondering how everything had gone so wrong so fast. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Marianne. "This is what Max told me. I love you, but you're making a huge mistake. Come over tomorrow. We'll talk." I stared at the message, rage blooming in my chest. No more playing nice. My fingers shook as I typed a reply. "Marianne, stay out of my marriage." I hit send, and I knew then I had declared war. The weeks after that blowout were filled with silence, awkward glances, forced politeness. Max and I went through the motions like two strangers occupying the same space. The air between us was thick with everything we weren't saying, everything we refused to admit. Then it happened. One crisp fall morning, Max lowered his newspaper and cleared his throat. "Leah," he said calmly, like we weren't sitting on the edge of something fragile. "I think we should see a fertility specialist." My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. "Excuse me." Max kept his eyes forward. "It's been months. We're not getting younger. It might be smart to explore our options." His words dropped like lead in my chest. Marianne's shadow stretched across the room, even though she wasn't physically there. I set my mug down harder than I meant to. We agreed to wait. "Max," he sighed. "Leah, we can't just keep putting this off. You want a family, don't you?" His words, the tone, the pressure. I felt it like a weight on my chest. "Yes," I said, carefully. "But on our terms, not hers." He clenched his jaw. "My mother has nothing to do with this." I scoffed. "Oh, really?" Then why the urgency? Why the guilt? You expect me to believe this is all just a coincidence. He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous tic I had come to recognize all too well. I've already made an appointment, he said finally. Dr. Reeves. She's the best in the city. The world tilted beneath me, and you did what? Without even asking me, I knew you'd react like this, he said, raising his voice. That's why I didn't tell you. You need a push sometimes. Leah? A push, I echoed, stunned. No. Max, this isn't a push. This is a shove off a cliff. We stared at each other across the kitchen table, the silence between us now louder than words. I took a deep breath, tried to steady myself. Fine, I said, I'll go. But only on one condition. Max's expression flickered. What is it? Your mother stays out of this. No more texts, no more advice, no more sharing our personal life. He hesitated, and for a moment, I wasn't sure he'd agree. Then he nodded. Okay, agreed. The appointment was set for the following week. Sitting in Dr. Reeves' office, I felt like I was drowning in clinical terms and blood work schedules. Max was energized, buzzing with questions about treatment plans and statistics. Meanwhile, I sat still. Quiet, distant, on our way out. A wave of nausea hit me. I barely made it to a trash can before I threw up Leah. Max cried, rushing to my side. I'm fine, I whispered, just nerves. But even as I said it, a tiny voice inside me wondered, could it be something else that night? Lying in bed with my hand on my belly, I let the idea settle in. I might already be pregnant, before any treatment, before any pressure, before Marianne could sink her claws in again, if I was right. Everything was about to change. We didn't talk much in the days that followed, but we did schedule the 20-week scan once it was confirmed. We tiptoed around each other like strangers, as if speaking too loudly would shatter the fragile calm we'd created. Then the day arrived. We sat in the clinic waiting room, side by side but miles apart. Max scrolled through his phone. I picked at the hem of my sleeve. The Caldwells, a nurse, called out. We stood and followed her into a dimly lit room. I laid down on the table, and the technician spread the cold gel across my stomach. Ready to meet your baby, she asked with a warm smile. I nodded, barely. Max stood stiffly beside me, hands shoved into his pockets. When the whoosh whoosh of the heartbeat filled the room, I instinctively reached for his hand. After a pause, he gave it to me, limp, uncertain. But the sound, it was our baby, and I cried. That's our baby, I whispered, looking at Max. He stared at the screen, his face unreadable. Everything looks perfect, the technician said. Would you like to know the gender? I hesitated. We hadn't planned to find out, but something inside me needed to know. Yes, I said softly. Tell us. The technician smiled as she adjusted the wand. You're having a daughter. Congratulations. Time froze. A daughter. A girl. The room blurred around me. Emotions surged, love, fears, everything all at once. But then I felt it. Max's hand went cold. I turned to him. His face had gone completely blank. And then, a girl, he said flatly. The technician, sensing the mood shift, quickly wrapped up the scan and excused herself. We walked to the car in silence, and I lost it. Say something. Max. He gripped the wheel tighter. I was just hoping for a boy. Hoping, I said, my voice cracking. That's our daughter, our child. How can you sound disappointed? He let out a slow breath. You don't understand. In my family, sons are always the firstborn. It's tradition. It's expected. Expected by who I snapped. Your mother, he clenched his jaw. It's not about her. It's about carrying on the Caldwell name. I stared at him. Stop the car, I whispered. What stopped the car? He pulled over abruptly, and I fumbled with the door, needing air, needing space. Where are you going? He called after me. I turned, my chest heaving. How dare you bring your sexist, outdated expectations into this? That is our daughter. She is part of us. I stepped closer, fury rising. "If you can't see her worth now, then maybe we made a mistake." Max paled. "Leah, that's not what I meant. I can't go back to that house right now. I said, I need time. I need space." And I walked. I didn't turn around when he called my name. I didn't stop to explain. My hand cradled my belly protectively, and for the first time, I felt it in my bones. I was no longer fighting for just me. I was fighting for her. That night, I stayed at my parents' house. I didn't answer Max's calls. I didn't reply to his messages. I sat in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by fading posters and soft memories. Clutching the tiny swell of my belly, my mother hovered nearby, her concern worn like armor. My father paced the hallway like a soldier waiting for orders. When I told them what had happened about the clinic, about Max's reaction, about Marianne's comments, they were furious. My dad's jaw clenched so tightly I thought it might shatter. "That boy needs a wake-up call," he muttered, but I wasn't ready to involve anyone else. Not yet. I needed clarity before I confronted the storm again. Then, the next morning, my phone buzzed, a message from Max. "Please, Leah, can we talk anywhere? Just say when." Against my better judgment, I replied, "The park, noon, the one where we had our first date. It was a quiet place, familiar, neutral ground." When I arrived, Max was already pacing near our old bench. He looked different, hollow-eyed, sleep-deprived, almost fragile. "Leah," he said, his voice cracking with relief. "Thank God. I've been so worried." I sat, carefully, keeping space between us. "Say what you need to say." "Max." He took a deep breath, eyes heavy. "I'm sorry. For everything. For not protecting you. For letting my mother come between us. I've been a coward." I didn't interrupt. He kept going. "I told her she's not welcome in our lives anymore. I told her if she couldn't accept our daughter, she'd have no part in this family." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. But the memory of him standing frozen again and again when I needed him most, it still burned. "Words are easy, Max," I said. "But when it counted, when it really mattered, you stayed silent." "I know," he whispered. "And I will regret that for the rest of my life. But please, give me the chance to make it right." He reached for my hand. I didn't stop him. His touch was shaky, desperate. "I've changed the locks," he added. "Blocked her number. It's just us now. You, me, and our daughter. No more interference." I didn't respond. I couldn't. Not yet. Instead, I let him walk me to his car. The silence between us was cautious, fragile like glass. As we turned into our driveway, something felt off. Max fumbled with his keys, murmuring something about the new locks, but the front door, it was already open. I froze. And then, there she was, Marianne, standing in our foyer like she owned it. Her face twisted into that familiar mask of righteous fury. "So," she sneered, "the wayward daughter-in-law returns." My breath caught. I turned to Max. "You said I didn't know." He stammered. "I swear. How did she get in?" Marianne held up a key. "Please," she said smugly. "You didn't think I wouldn't have a backup?" I backed up instinctively, my hand protectively on my belly. This was a mistake. "I need to go." Max grabbed my arm, holding me still. "Wait, Leah, please." Marianne stepped forward, her voice suddenly soft, almost tender. "Don't be dramatic. We're family. We care about you. About the baby." The way she said the baby made my skin crawl. I pulled away from Max and turned to flee, and that's when I saw it. In Marianne's hand, something small, silver, sharp, a syringe. Everything in me froze. The chill ran from my scalp to the soles of my feet. This wasn't about control anymore. This wasn't about family. This was about erasure, about elimination. "Max," I screamed, stumbling backwards. "Do something." But he didn't move. He stood rooted in place, paralyzed, torn again. And I knew. In that moment, there would be no rescue, no saving, no redemption, only me. And my daughter. I bolted, pushed past Marianne, ignored her startled gasp. My heart pounded. My limbs moved on instinct. I didn't stop. Not when Max called after me. Not when Marianne yelled that I'd regret this. I ran. Ran until the world blurred, until I was safe, gasping for breath. I burst through my parents' front door. My mother rushed to me. Leah. What happened? I couldn't speak. Not yet. I collapsed into her arms, shaking. My father stepped forward, eyes wild. I'm calling the police. No, I choked out. Not yet. I need help. Legal help. And then, like fate answering my cry, my mother spoke. What about Paul? Paul Hawkins. Childhood friend? Quiet? Dependable? Now a family attorney. I remembered his kind eyes, the way he used to carry my backpack when I sprained my wrist in 6th grade. Call him. I said, please. Paul arrived that night. He was older now, with silver at his temples and a calm confidence that settled the storm in my chest. Leah, he said gently. After I told him everything, I'm so sorry. But we're going to fight this. For you. For your daughter. In the days that followed, Paul became my lifeline. We gathered everything. Texts, emails, recordings. We filed for emergency custody, restraining orders, protection. This won't be easy. Paul warned one night, poring over papers at our dining table. Max's family has deep pockets, connections. If we're not fast, they'll bury this. I'm ready. I told him, placing my hand over my belly. I'll do whatever it takes for her. Just as we prepared to head to court, my phone buzzed again. A message from Max. Please, don't do this. Let's talk. One last time. I showed it to Paul. His jaw tightened. This could be a trap. I nodded slowly. Maybe, but I need to see his face. One more time, to know I'm not making a mistake. Paul sighed. Then we do it my way. Public place. Witnesses. No contact without backup. We agreed on a cafe. The one downtown, familiar, bright, neutral ground. As we walked in, I spotted Max right away. He stood, eyes tired, hair unkempt. Like the man I had loved was still buried somewhere inside him. Leah, he whispered, thank you for coming. I opened my mouth, but then the door behind me slammed open, and there she was, Marianne, eyes blazing. She charged. You ungrateful tramp, she screamed, lunging forward. Everything exploded. My father stepped in front of me. Paul moved swiftly between us, but I wasn't watching her. I was watching Max, and once again, he stood there, still, torn, silent, and I knew. No matter what promises he made, no matter what tears he cried, he would never choose me. The cafe descended into chaos. Chairs scraped, gasps echoed, and all eyes turned toward us as Marianne shrieked and lunged. Her rage poured from her like venom. A stream of accusations and delusions flung toward me. Paul moved fast, his arm outstretched, shielding me from her flailing fury. My father stepped in, voice booming, "That's enough." But still, Marianne kept coming. "You think you've won," she snarled. "You think this little stunt changes anything. That thing in your belly is not a Caldwell. It's a mistake, and so are you." Her words hit like bullets, but I didn't flinch. Not this time, because I wasn't the same woman she tried to break. Max finally moved, stepping in with a trembling hand and catching her by the arm. "Stop it, Mom," he hissed. But she tore herself away from him, wild-eyed and rabid. "You're throwing away our legacy." "For her," she turned back to me, pointing a finger like a dagger. "I'll make sure the Caldwell estate never sees a cent in your direction. You and that bastard child." The room went still, and something in me snapped. I stepped forward, not running, not afraid, but ready. My voice came out low, clear, deadly calm. "This is the last time you will ever speak to me or about my child." Marianne sneered. And what will you do? Cry into your baby blanket? No, I said. I'll end this. I turned to Paul. Now. Paul reached into his briefcase and pulled out a folder. Thick and stamped. Mr. and Mrs. Caldwell, he said, his voice sharp as glass. These are official court documents, divorce filings, full custody motion, and restraining orders for both of you. The silence cracked wide open. You are hereby ordered to have no contact with Leah Redding or her unborn daughter. Paul continued. Any violation will result in immediate legal action. Marianne's mouth opened, but no sound came. Max looked pale, lost, as if the ground had finally vanished from beneath his feet. You said we could talk, he mumbled. No, I replied, staring him dead in the eye. I said I needed to see you. I needed to confirm what I already knew, and now I have. He reached for me, pathetic, slow. Leah, wait, please, I can change. I pulled back. No, you had every chance. You chose silence. You chose her. I turned toward the exit, but stopped short. There was one last thing I had to say. To both of you, I said, voice trembling with purpose. I don't care about your money. I don't care about your name. You don't get to define who my daughter is. She is mine. And she is more than your legacy. I walked out, and this time, no one followed that night. Paul sat across from me in my parents' living room. My hands cradled my belly, my thoughts spinning. You did the right thing, he said gently. I nodded. But the ache inside me hadn't dulled. I just wanted it to be different. I whispered. I wanted Max to choose us. I know, Paul said softly. But sometimes, the people we love the most are the ones least capable of loving us back. He let that sit in the air, heavy and honest. I keep thinking about my daughter. I said, what kind of world she's coming into, how much I have to protect her from. Paul leaned forward. She's already got everything she needs. I looked up. She's got you. Tears fell then, silent, steady, and I didn't wipe them away. The next morning, we filed every motion. Restraining orders were granted, emergency custody was secured, Marianne and Max were both served, and the legal gears began to grind into motion. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. But the battle wasn't over. Because while Marianne disappeared into the shadows, lawyers in tow, Max tried one last time, a letter, handwritten, folded neatly, slipped into my mailbox like a final confession. Leah, it began. I don't know who I am anymore. I let you down. I let her win. I thought I could fix it, thought I could protect everyone, but I was wrong. I didn't stand up for you. I didn't stand up for our daughter, and now I've lost both of you. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect a reply. I just hope someday she'll know I loved her. Even if I never earned the right to say it, Max. I folded the letter and set it aside. No tears, no anger, just silence. Because I had already buried the version of him I used to love, and I had no intention of digging it back up. Instead, I focused on preparing for what came next. My daughter, her arrival, our new beginning. I packed the nursery in my parents' guest room. Pale yellow walls, a mobile that played soft lullabies, tiny clothes folded with trembling hands. My mom helped paint. My dad built the crib, and every evening, I sat there, imagining her laugh, her strength, her future. She was coming into a world that hadn't wanted her, but she would never feel that. Because I wanted her, I would fight for her. I would show her what love really looked like. When the day finally came, when my water broke at 2 a.m., I was calm. No fear, just purpose. We rushed to the hospital. My mother held one hand. Paul paced the hallway like a nervous uncle. And then hours later, she was here, 10 fingers, 10 toes, a fierce, full-throated cry. My daughter, my world. I held her close and whispered in her tiny ear, "You are everything, everything they said you couldn't be, everything I never knew I needed." And when her eyes opened and she looked at me, I knew. Everything I had walked away from was worth it. The first weeks with my daughter were a haze of love, exhaustion, and quiet triumph. She was perfect. She had Max's eyes. And I hated how often I noticed that, but where his gaze had grown distant, hers searched for me always, her fingers curled tightly around mine like she knew what we'd been through, like she trusted me to make it better, and I would. Every time I fed her in the quiet hours of morning, I reminded myself she would never be someone's disappointment, never be measured by a last name. She was not a placeholder. She was the whole story. I named her Clara. It means clear, bright, strong. She fit the name instantly. Max never showed up, never called. The silence was loud, but not surprising, legally. He hadn't fought the emergency custody. Whether it was guilt, shame, or simple cowardice, I didn't know. But I was done trying to understand his reasons. Clara was my focus now, my beginning. Paul visited often. He brought over forms, advice, and once a tiny, ridiculous giraffe plush toy Clara immediately latched onto. Sometimes he stayed just to talk, and his presence filled the room with something steady. My parents fell in love all over again this time, with their granddaughter. My dad built a wooden rocking chair. My mom knitted tiny hats she didn't even know how to make a month ago. There was healing in the routines, in Clara's cries, her giggles. Her milestones became the map of our recovery. Still, there were tremors. Marianne tried once more, through a lawyer, a letter filled with carefully constructed phrases about family unity, misunderstandings, and the importance of a strong paternal legacy. It made me laugh. And then it made me sick. She offered money, a trust fund, a new car, even a private education package for Clara. All in exchange for access. I didn't even let Paul respond. I sent the letter back myself with one word written across it in red ink. No, that was the end of it. No more threats, no more manipulation. I had shut the door, and this time, it stayed closed. The divorce finalized quietly in the spring. Paul handed me the documents with a firm nod. It was over. No more ties, no more limbo. Max was gone from our lives by law and by choice, and I felt free. A year passed. Clara took her first steps in the backyard under a pale April sky. She fell, giggled, and stood again stubborn and fearless, like me, on her first birthday. We had cupcakes and music and a balloon arch my mom made with love and too much glitter. She didn't understand the celebration, but I did. It was a memorial to everything we'd survived. At one point, as I held Clara close, Paul came over, a paper crown tilted on his head courtesy of my niece. He looked at me and smiled. "She's lucky," he said. I smiled back. So am I. There were moments I still thought of Max, moments when Clara's laugh sounded just like his, when her eyes sparkled in the same shade of blue, but I didn't regret walking away. I regretted staying silent for so long, regretted letting fear convince me I had to earn love. Now, I knew better. Now. I had proof that I was enough because she was thriving. On a warm summer evening, I sat on the porch with Clara asleep in my arms. The stars blinked gently above us, and the world felt still. Paul stepped outside, 2 mugs of tea in hand. He passed one to me and sat beside us. Quiet. After a moment, he said, "Do you ever think about dating again?" I chuckled. "I barely have time to shower." He laughed softly. "Fair." Then we sat in companionable silence, the kind that didn't need to be filled, eventually. I turned to him. "Why do you ask?" His expression didn't change. "Because I think you deserve someone who chooses you the first time, every time." I looked down at Clara, her fingers twitching in sleep. I already have someone like that, I whispered. He smiled. Yes, you do. He stood to leave, but paused on the steps. If you ever want someone to stand beside both of you, just say the word. Then he was gone, and my heart fluttered. Not because I needed saving, but because I was finally strong enough to let someone in on my terms. Not now. But maybe one day. Clara stirred, and I kissed her forehead, holding her closer. You and me, kid, I whispered. We're writing our own story, and that story, it wouldn't be built on obedience or legacies or last names. It would be built on truth, on love, on the quiet, fierce power of saying, this is enough. Because we are.